Good morning, everyone. So as Kate mentioned, we're really excited about the panel this morning. We think you're going to find it really interesting and engaging. And there will be a lot of shifting back and forth, so you may see us buzzing around trying to corral you once again, and we apologize for breaking up conversations that you probably don't want us to break up. But I'm just apologizing in advance for that. I'd like to thank the panelists for coming up, and now I'd like to introduce Dr. Manya Ruffin. She is the Program Director in the Directorate of Education and Human Resources in the Division for Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings at NSF. And she currently serves as the Program Director for NSF Includes. So Manya, if you'd like to step up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody today? Oh, that doesn't sound very good. I hope you had a very good day yesterday and looking forward to today. So welcome to day 2 of our convening. So my name is Manya Ruffin, as you just mentioned, and I do work in DRL, and I'm one of the NSF Includes co-leads for the implementation team, along with Paige Smith, who's here. All right. So we have a very esteemed panel here of federal agencies as well as some of our corporate folks who are here to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that they're doing and their interest in engaging with NSF Includes. And I want to say just a little bit about today's session, okay? So we're going to give everybody an opportunity to say a little bit about their work, so they're going to introduce themselves. And then we'll break into roundtable discussions where each of you'll be able to have an opportunity to talk with some of our federal agency partners as well as other federal agencies. And then we'll come back together to talk about some of the kinds of discussions we've had in our groups and then also ask some questions as well. Okay? So before we do that, let me check in to see if we'll be able to do our polling function. We will be able to do that. Okay. So apparently we will be able to do this. Just wanted to check in. So before we do this though, I want to take a quick moment to introduce you to our Assistant Director at NSF for the Directorate for Education and Human Resources. Her name is Dr. Karen Marangel, and she's our esteemed leader in the Education Directorate along with several others. We have Dr. Sylvia James here too. But Karen is here, and she's really excited about NSF Includes and very much involved with NSF Includes, leads our leadership team for NSF Includes, and we just wanted to give a moment to recognize her and also thank her for all of her work with NSF Includes. So let's give her a hand. Thank you. Here she is. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Okay, let's take a look at the poll. So for most of you, you were here yesterday and became familiar with this functionality. So what we ask that you do is to take out one of your devices. So I'm sure most of you have a phone with you. So feel free to use your phone or an iPad or a laptop. There are 2 different ways that you can participate in this poll. You can respond by typing in pollev.com/NSF Includes. Or you can text NSF Includes to 22333 once and then join and then A or B. So take a moment to do that. We'd love to get your feedback on this question. And the question reads, Have you established relationships with new institutions that are outside of what you originally proposed to bring you closer to accomplishing the shared vision of your NSF Includes project? Okay. All right, we see some of you are working through this. Very nice, 86%. So most of you are. So that's fantastic. That's part of what we want to see with NSF Includes. That we're also helping to expand your work and efforts beyond just this project and the institutions that you're working with. For the 17% of you, this is a great opportunity to expand that network and make connections. So we hope that you continue to do that while you're here. All right, so thank you. Sherry's coming up. Okay. All right, so we are going to start with our flash talks, and we'll have each of the agencies come up and introduce themselves in the order of the flash talks that are here. And then once you are done with all of the flash talks, we'll take a moment and transition over to the roundtable discussions. We will also ask you to switch at some point so that everybody gets an opportunity to speak with more than one agency while you're here. And again, we'll come back after that. So please don't leave the room after you finish your roundtable discussion. All right, let's begin. We have the Department of Education, Patty Curtis.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. That's good. That's pretty good for a second day. Appreciate that. My name is Patty Curtis, and I am the Robert Noyce Allen Letvin Informal STEM Education Fellow at the U.S. Department of Education. So can everybody repeat that, please? Honestly, I'm very grateful to my sponsors, which is the STEM Next Foundation and the Charles C. Mott Foundation. I'm the second fellow in this role. Ellen Letvin, my predecessor, served for nearly 4 years. So I'm pleased to follow in her footsteps. When I first got the charge for the flash talk, I was a little confused. I thought it was about what the department internally is doing about diversity and inclusion, so I threw up some of the things that I discovered. And I think these are probably fairly representative of other federal agencies. We were also asked to talk about challenges, limitations, innovations, and opportunities. So please take these as my personal remarks. I just started in mid-January, and I wanted to provide a few of my own observations. With respect to administrative challenges at the Department of Ed, it's a large bureaucracy. Still finding my way around. And I think the other thing too, for people that are looking for opportunities, I feel that our website needs to be improved. I struggled a bit finding updated information on pending and current grants, but we're working on that. We're also under a hiring freeze. So I think in the last couple of years we've lost about 2% of our workforce, so I imagine that impacts response times and other sort of personnel replies to inquiries. We also just went through a large reorganization in January, so there are a lot of new folks and new roles. There's been a shifting of department policies where programs are located, so that can be confusing for both people inside and outside, I imagine. With respect to limitations, I kind of look at those as statutory limitations. Congress obviously sets a lot of policy with respect to how our funds are distributed. A lot of our money is formula grants to states based on, typically on student populations and low-income communities. That's our priority. We also have higher ed programs which are mandatory, and some of them we do have some discretionary grants, which gives us a little bit of flexibility. With respect to promising innovations, I think some things that are very encouraging is that the Secretary has a series of priorities, and STEM and computer science are one of her top 10 priorities. And that is permeating all of our discretionary grants, at least the several that have been released since I was there in January. We also have a competitive preference around computer science, so really pushing the field to move in computer science research and implementation. And we are often having a rural set-aside, so for grantees that are coming from rural communities, we're trying to reserve 25% of our grants. If applications are such quality, we would be happy to grant those communities, as well as nascent applications. So I encourage all of you to look at the Department of Ed for grant opportunities if you've not pursued our programs. Some other promising innovations is that they now have a STEM fellow, so I'm happy to be here to serve as a liaison to the STEM community. I also have an informal STEM education newsletter where I try to aggregate opportunities both through NSF or NASA or the department or other opportunities for the STEM field, and you can contact me at my email address, patty.curtis@ed.gov. With respect to opportunities, I think we offer a lot for diversity. We have several White House initiatives that are housed at the Department of Education, which are designed to advance those communities of various minority groups. We have competitive grants to support minority-serving institutions. We have funds to engage underserved students to prepare them for college and careers. We fund students in tribal lands and ethnic enclaves. We have programs to help individuals with disabilities. My colleague was here yesterday. Bernadette, are you in the room? Bernadette Hens was here yesterday and really reported to me that she was having a wonderful time engaging with a number of you here. She runs the Minority Science and Engineering Improvement Program, which is also a grant opportunity for your consideration. There's a number of programs which were on my poster, which you can barely read here, but it was shared as a PDF and I guess will be posted on the website. So literally if you Google any one of those programs on our webpage, which is ed.gov, you'll be brought to a page, hopefully, that will provide you some details on funding opportunities. So that's it for me. I look forward to communicating with the rest of you this afternoon and in the future. Oh, and one more plug. We're always looking for peer reviewers. So similarly, if you're interested in that, I can direct you to the right folks for a variety of our grant programs. Thanks. And now my colleague, Eleanor.
Good morning, I'm Eleanor Snow. I'm the manager of Youth and Education Programs at the U.S. Geological Survey. USGS is the science branch of the Department of the Interior. Our fellow agencies in Interior are land management agencies like BLM and national parks, and regulatory agencies like BOEM. So we are the science people. We have a very broad mission in the sciences of the earth. I'm sure it won't surprise you to know we do all the geo things like hazards and mapping, critical minerals. If you listened to NPR this morning, they had a story about the minerals that are in your cell phone that mostly are not common and mostly are not in the US. So we work with critical minerals, but also we have a very large ecosystems group and an environmental health group. So, and water is our biggest mission area. So we do a lot of things that are very interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, which I think are really engaging and interesting topics for students. One of the challenges that we face, that in fact all of STEM faces, and I know you are aware of this, is that we really desperately need to diversify. I think, I'm a geoscientist, so maybe I'm a little prejudiced, but I think that earth scientists are tackling some of the most complex and important questions for the 21st century, and we need every mind that we can get to come to work on those problems. And so that's why we're very interested in this program and in inclusion and diversity overall. We have several programs already in place that target inclusion. We have programs for undergraduate and graduate students that are internships. We work directly with some minority-serving institutions to send USGS scientists there and bring their students to USGS as interns, and we would be very happy to grow those programs. We also have a program that I'm particularly close to and fond of, which is called Step Up. It's a secondary transition to employment program for students who are neurodiversity, targeting neurodiversity. We're working very strongly right now with students on the moderate to low functioning end of the autism spectrum, and they have remarkable talents that are of great use in a science agency. This is a program that we really hope many other universities and employers start paying attention to this population of workers, because they're extraordinary and they're doing wonderful things. We'll be talking about it a little bit more in the session on diversity later this morning. We also work with NSF and other agencies on internships at the undergraduate and graduate level. So those of you who have students interested in NSF-funded internships at federal agencies, we're not the only federal agency that does this, but NSF has two wonderful programs for that, one called GRIP and the other called Intern, so that should be easy to remember. It funds students to go spend time at a federal agency. Very, very useful stuff. So the things that we would like to move forward with, in addition to the programs that we already have and would like to grow, we'd really like to look with people about community science, having students develop and grow research projects in their own neighborhood that reflect the interests and concerns of their own community. We're growing our citizen science programs, and we have several new ones popping up. We've got about 15 right now, but we're developing some new ones, especially in the ecosystems area. And USGS, plus lots of our other federal agencies, NOAA, NASA, etc., we have a lot of data about the Earth, and are really happy to work with partners to develop rich teaching and learning experiences that involve federal data. So those are our challenges in moving forward. Thank you.
When you see your slide, that means you're up. So good morning, I'm Tori Johnson. I'm with NASA, Office of STEM Engagement. I'm here with my colleagues, Dr. Johnson, Sister Poland, Susan. So good to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about what NASA's looking at in terms of challenges and innovation on the next slide. That's me. So it's early. So we're talking about holistic program development, and so some of the concerns or challenges that we have in that arena are focused around impacting the development of faculty, students, but also making sure that we recognize that research capacity is really important, and the notion of what the institution's infrastructure looks like and how we impact that. We talk a lot about long-term institutional buy-in, how we get that from our institutions. And so what we've done in the way of innovation is focused on a sustainability initiative. And so an acronym I'll throw out you is MIRA, Minority University Research and Education Project. And that's where we focused on having 3 to 4 road tour events throughout the year where we matchmake minority-serving institutions with some of our NASA prime contractors. The aim there is to try to help our institutions move from cooperative agreements to the contract arena so that we can focus on building their sustainability. We do that through capability statements, helping them share what it is that they do, and who knows that they do it. We've also set up a repository of this data so that we can share internally with our mission directorates, so again, they know where the partnerships and collaborations can occur. Additionally, with one of our colleagues, I'm not sure if Rick is still here, we're focused on evaluation and performance assessment, and bettering our metrics and how we share our stories. And Dr. Johnson can speak when we break out a little more on our EPSCoR Miro partnership, which is more brokered research partnership, so it's really exciting. Let's see. And then in terms of opportunities and limitations, NASA, like many of the other agencies, have their own unique challenges and competitions. Here we focus with INCOS on working with community college students in a large reach area We're focusing more so on simulated environments where they can come together, work in teams, focus on project management skills, and also enhance their communication and public speaking. Additionally, we're all unique, and so we have research centers, we call them NASA Field Centers, and there we can really access direct access to subject matter experts, as well as benefiting our students with internship experiences throughout the summer. And so, additionally, when we look at limitations, and we'll be able to speak more to this at the tables, we have to understand mission priorities, which change. We also have our own federal agency guidelines, and something that I think we'd really like to talk about is the duration of awards. Are they too short, too long? What's the right amount and fit so that we can actually connect and impact the change that we want to see in our institutions? So looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
I serve as the lead for academic engagement within the NICE program office. That's the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. That's led by NIST, part of the Department of Commerce. So our prime mission is, our federal mandate is to develop the cybersecurity workforce for the nation. And so what I'm going to try to do here just briefly is suggest opportunities with NIST and Department of Commerce, as well as speak within our program office within NICE. So in terms of broadening participation and some of the challenges I have here, this is a resource that we help fund. It's a partnership between CompTIA and Burning Glass. It's called cyberseek.org. It's an interactive heat map, which basically scrubs the job boards for anything cybersecurity job related. And from that, you can see nationally what where the pockets are in cybersecurity workforce demands. You can look at state, regional, and zero in on your particular community. And then from that, there are other data points in terms of what certifications they're looking for and what the average wage is for that particular area or geographic location. So the industry is in short demand for cybersecurity workers. Shock! I'm sure you already know that. So it's a great field to get into and great opportunities. Some of the innovation that we're also seeing, so we don't see it diminishing. You'll see some numbers, 1.8 up to 3 million. That's the global study. If you're looking at the cybersecurity workforce in the US, it's around 300, a little over 300K right now. It is growing though, so some of the things that we're seeing is emphasis on quantum computing, AI, machine learning, manufacturing, data science. All of those are things that are just going to expand the particular need in this area. So opportunities and limitations. So one of the challenges, I should say first, is this picture over on the left with the little boxes, something that we do with educators and students is ask them to pick out the cybersecurity practitioner. And so they're getting a lot more savvy about it now. But before, we would do focus groups and we would ask, what is a cybersecurity professional? And about 99% of the time they would say computer scientist or the picture of a person with a hoodie in front of a computer hat. And so one of our challenges is making society understand that cybersecurity is not a monolithic entity of itself. It basically sits across multiple domains. So there are some programs of study that are in cybersecurity, but more often than not, you will see it in an engineering degree with a specialty in cybersecurity, computer science with a specialty in cybersecurity. We have a lot of our centers of academic excellence actually come out of schools of business, information systems, because of the risk management and business continuity. You see digital crime coming out of the criminal justice and those departments. We see an increase in the number of 2- and 4-year institutions that have whole programs in cyber psychology now, digital law. So it's across multiple domains. We do have what we call the NICE workforce framework. So that is the federal classification or taxonomy for cybersecurity workforce. There are 7 broad categories, 33 specialty areas, 52 work roles at the current time. Within those are the occupational codes that get plugged into Department of Labor. Currently, since 2017, the federal government has to classify their any of their cybersecurity workers are classified with those codes as well as the federal contractors in more and more of the industry. So trying to steer people to understand that cybersecurity is much broader than just a computer scientist or a hacker sitting on a couch with a hoodie is extremely important. But it also gives us a wealth of opportunity to bring others on board. So any way that we can get other disciplines and that interdisciplinary focus is the important piece. So that's it.
Good morning. I am Patrice Cromwell. I'm from the Annie Casey Foundation, so I'm a little bit of an anomaly here because I am not with the federal government. I was asked to join today because we have a unique partnership underway with the Corporation for National Community Service and the Social Innovation Fund, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Annie Casey Foundation, in case you're not aware, it's a large foundation, private foundation, and our focus is really on building better futures for all youth and children in the United States. And we are particularly focused around closing disparities and equity, particularly around racial and ethnic equity. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about an initiative that we partnered with the Social Innovation Fund. They put out an RFP. Generally, we are funding nonprofits around the country who are building programs. And this unique RFP, the Social Innovation Fund, was trying to get other funders to leverage their dollars and to help us leverage our own. So it was a unique opportunity where for every dollar we put in, we could leverage another $5. And part of that, one of the focus areas was on youth development. And we're particularly focused at Annie Casey Foundation on a subset of young people, particularly young people that are out of school and work. So there are 4.5 million young people around the country that are out of school and out of work, about 11.5% of the population of young people between 16 and 24. And with what we called our initiative, the Learn and Learn to Achieve Potential, we particularly focused on an initiative to re-engage young people that had some involvement with child welfare, the juvenile justice system, or are homeless. A big portion of the population, 11.5%, so a subset of that, to reconnect to school and work. Oops, went the wrong way. So as part of that, we put out an RFP. We were going to take 2 models. One was focused on bringing young people back and helping them complete high school and then prepare for work and post-secondary. And then a second model that was really focused on high school graduates, helping bring them back to prepare them for post-secondary career pathways. We selected 10 local organizations that were kind of backbone organization in a community from Alaska, as you see Covenant House, to a group like the University of Southern Maine in Portland. And each of these organizations would bring together the public partners, whether it was foster care and the workforce agency plus schools, for instance, in a place like Covenant House, to build a roadmap for homeless youth to become independent, so to regain their education degree, gain a high school diploma, then be on a pathway to work, and then go secondary. So I'm going to move a little quicker. This is part of our model of adapting these two programs. We have young leaders very engaged in the design of the work. And the goal is to build evidence. We just completed a national evaluation. And as part of this work, working across public agencies, and these are some of the ones that we've been working with in addition to employers, we found there were systemic barriers that were often preventing young people from fully accessing the programs. Either they weren't aware of them in their neighborhood, child welfare wasn't aware of all the programs that education had, special tuition waivers, etc. And so part of this collaborative effort helped us identify a number of lessons, both making sure we had basic needs addressed for youth, made program delivery models much more flexible, had strong adult-youth relationships so that young people could have an advocate, an adult advocate that wasn't asking them what was wrong with you because you perhaps had been incarcerated. Part of the question was, what was your experience, what happened to you, to really understand how to rebuild from some of that trauma. And then last, thinking about how to be much more proactive in outreach, which many of you sound like you're doing, and looking at creative partnerships. As we go forward, we're scaling this. We're winding down the SIF portion, our 3-year partnership. We're starting a new 5-year initiative, adding a number of sites. And we're honing in on sites that are working very specifically with a public agency, like either K-12 system or the juvenile justice system, to scale these pathway programs that are helping young people achieve education credentials as well as employment. And here was just one example in Minneapolis where we are working with Hennepin County on a out-of-school and alternative school program that is working to help 600 youth get engaged. It's now leading to a big bet that we're exploring now to replicate in 5 counties in the northern part of Minnesota, many tribal areas, to again re-engage a greater number of youth back into education, which key parts of these models are very focused on science. So thank you, and if you're interested in learning more about the foundation, our website is aecf.org. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm also an anomaly. I'm actually not with the federal agency, but I have taken advantage of many federal agency opportunities. So I definitely am, I think, a good ending to this panel presentation. My name is Uzi Navarch. I represent a College of Technology, which is a statewide pathway in Connecticut that has provided access in STEM careers, but in 2004, we received a National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education Center focused on manufacturing. So we've really been looking at two challenges for us because obviously underrepresentation populations is a target, but we also have to deal with the perception of manufacturing. So it's been, even a little bit more challenging as much as STEM is a challenge for a career choice. Sometimes when you're dealing with manufacturing and people, again, having a perception that it's old and dirty and my grandfather or uncle or whatever got laid off, I don't want my children to pursue these careers. We've had to address that. So I was asked to talk a little bit about how we've addressed increasing females, women in our particular programs, and also industry partnerships, which we have a very strong relationship. So I want to talk about both of those. So myself, I started at a technical college. It was 99% white, Caucasian males. I was actually the other 1% when I was hired. I basically had my own ladies' room with 5 stalls, which I thought was great, but then I realized what that really meant. So I'd love to say to you, we've come a long way, because I think we have, but the challenges are still there. So one of the things that we've been working with is image and perception. So again, looking at manufacturing, we've found that we need to provide resources on career opportunities for all students, but again, looking at diversity. So we've created a series of videos that are short, maybe 4 to 5 minutes maximum, when we first started doing this. And this is all actually with NSF funding, so thank you very much, because you really allowed us to make, I think, great inroads in terms of just providing unbelievable opportunities for students, not only in Connecticut, but certainly regionally and across the nation. But anyway, we found these videos to be extremely valuable. We actually realized, as much as we were doing a lot with just representing students who started at community colleges, complete associate's degrees, and then continue on to 4-year universities, we really covered the whole gamut. In fact, our programs are the classic stackable credentials. I'd like to say we made that up, but I can't take full benefit or full credit for that. But basically, we have a 30-credit certificate in manufacturing. Our students get hired $65,000, $70,000 a year with just that 1-year certificate. Then they go on seamlessly to 8 partner institutions, including private and public 4-year colleges and universities. And we even have students who've completed PhDs through this pipeline. We have one Latino female that in fact is now a professor at the Naval Academy and started at a community college in our city. So, she's one of many great examples of how this works. So I think one of the first things I would just want to share with everybody is that you have to present, just what you're looking for in terms of diversity, and your marketing materials be really sensitive to what you're distributing and how other people might perceive them. Professional organizations, we've done a lot with mentoring and networking. Certainly in manufacturing, there's a lot of organizations that we've tapped into. Women in Manufacturing, Society of Women in Engineering, Connecticut Technology Council that actually has a Women in Innovation Awards ceremony that recognizes, again, females in manufacturing, but also in all of STEM. And interestingly enough, we've done stuff with the Girl Scouts. They actually now have badges in STEM, so if you don't know that, it's actually some great opportunities to maybe bring Girl Scout groups onto your campuses and get them involved in some of the work that you're doing. And just peer mentoring. We found that that's just really been huge to connect maybe some of our upper classroom females with our entering freshmen and also high school students. And under the undergraduate research and problem-based learning projects, we found that's really, what's really helped us was to try to choose projects that basically address humanity, just quality of living, environmental issues. So we've done things with Go Baby Go, where they retrofit cars for handicapped children. We're working with a children's medical center to design sleep apnea monitors. But these are things that really attract girls. I hate to say, I know we're not warriors per se, but that does make a difference. As far as industry, maybe our biggest accomplishment is to work with industry associations. There are many across the United States, but certainly in Connecticut, we have statewide organizations, and they've been great in terms of just us being at the table and being able to provide access to industry, whether we want to use them for tours, for mentoring, and most recently, as of 2 weeks ago, we were able to get $175,000 scholarships from one of the smaller manufacturing associations. So again, I think that you want to be at the table. Maybe that's the most important message I could give you under this group. Collaboration with government agencies, again, you have a whole panel here. You know, I think that if you wanted to take a look at what's out there, there are a lot of opportunities. And last but not least, we're working with Manufacturing USA Institutes. Again, that's focused on manufacturing, but again, they are looking at workforce, and in fact, we've gotten some small scholarships, and we've also been able to get some small grants that are bringing us all together to look at diversity. So with that being said, I will just kind of wrap it up. That's my contact information, but I look forward to connecting with many of you throughout the day. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so as you can tell, there's a lot of good work going on across the agencies related to broadening participation in STEM. So let's give our panelists a hand for being here with us. Thank you. And sharing with us, we want to give you all an opportunity to speak with our federal agencies as well as some others who are here in more detail about some ways that you can leverage the work that you're doing, the opportunities that you have for your constituents, and then also some ways that we can work together with you through NSF Includes. So we are going to take about 20 minutes or so. We're a little behind schedule, so we'll try to pick this part up. What I will do now is to ask our panelists to go ahead to a table of your choosing and just stand there for a second, okay? All right. All right. And while they do that, I also want to acknowledge that we have other federal agency representatives who are here in the room and have expressed an interest in helping to facilitate this portion of our session today. So with those federal agency partners who are here, if you would stand as well at the table where you are located, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Remain standing. Thank you. All right. So it is. Okay. We need everybody to turn towards the front, please. Please end your conversations.
I think she's got the list.
Thank you. I see 2 tables still talking. Okay, you ready now? Okay, they said they're ready. All right, thank you everyone. So we see that these conversations are quite engaging and productive. So, 2 quick things. Thank you. 2 quick things. First, we want to ask you a question, and we want your feedback, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing, we are right at the break, but we thought some of you might want to continue your conversation. So after we ask this question, get your feedback, we will officially have the break. And you have the option to leave the room, continue your conversations, etc. But we do need to give you the opportunity for the break because we have quite a bit coming up next, okay? We wanted you to start these conversations. It's going to be up to you to continue them. That's part of this whole networking process. Here's your question. In your conversations, what ways did you talk about that you could potentially collaborate with the work that you're doing and with NSF Includes, with the network? What are some of the kinds of things you discuss? We have folks with microphones, Leslie and Kate. Who wants to offer a way that you discuss that you may be able to collaborate? Right here, NASA, the NASA table up here. Thank you.
One of the things we talked about was their website that's got lots of great information on it, and what's the newsletter? NASA Express newsletter that is updated with opportunities, not just for funding, but for other activities all over the country. And the coolest thing was all the celebrations and things that are going on all across the country for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing and the moonwalk. And so those are ways that we can tie in with some of the outreach that we're doing with all age, K-12, college, everything. So good things.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Hi,
so we're in the Department of Education, and so our DDLP is really at this time looking at what are the types of things that we need to do in our systems, both academic and after school. But what I was able to learn out of this table and partnerships is when we get into intervention stages, being able to work with our district to be able to look at Title 4A, Title 4B, and start to supplement the dollars so that we can actually now go into intervening and creating opportunities and programs that will support what our community has said is necessary in that particular area. So that's really helpful.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Others? What are some ways you can collaborate over here?
Sure. The table discussed the possibility of intersection with faith-based and community engagement to expand and broaden participation, as well as extending innovation efforts for middle school, high school, onto careers in STEM. And lastly, a challenge to us at NASA was to assist in more aerospace curriculum help as they try to move forward with respect to professional groups and others in the university.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Quite a number on the list. I see a couple of hands back here. Kate is on her way.
Kate and I are getting our steps.
And thank you all for sharing. Folks didn't get a chance to go around to all of the different tables, so this is a nice way for everybody to hear some of the different ways that collaboration can potentially occur.
Hi,
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Austin Shelton from the University of Guam, DDLP. And so we had a few people here from the coordination hub, so we thought it's important to make sure that people who are not in the hub are connecting with the hub, and we can learn ways to meet the community collaboration interests. And I think that website is a great first place to start, but I'm hoping we'll have a little more opportunities to really connect with the hub today and learn about the services that they can offer for collaboration opportunities.
Great, thank you. And in fact, the hub will be sharing more about the website, right? Or at least I know during the federal agency session.
Yep, doing that, and it's www.includesnetwork.org. That's right, www.includesnetwork.org.
That's right. Leslie did a nice infomercial for us yesterday. So please do check that out. Thank you. That's the coordination.
Hi,
Greg
Monty, CANT. I know that the education department where I'm standing at this table has a lot of data sets and a lot of information that can be leveraged by the Includes Network. I suspect that's probably true of all the other agency tables in the room here. So I happen to have an NSF grant that uses data from NCES, so it's a broadening participation research grant. I think others can look at that opportunity. So explore their data sets.
Okay, two last. She has one, and then we'll take Andreas.
I'd just like to plug that our Office of Civil Rights also has data sets that would be helpful.
Okay. You said the Office of Civil Rights? Okay, got it, thank you.
Hi,
Andres.
Andres Enriquez, New York Hall of Science. We talked with the U.S. Geological Services about areas both in rural areas, but also in densely populated city areas, but issues around natural disasters, and also really talking about places that are both gaining populations, but also communities that are losing populations, and trying to figure out the ways in which we can work around broadening participation. We talked about the differences between community science, which is something that is really localized and problems that our citizens can actually participate in and use the community to solve problems, versus citizen science, where you're really contributing to large data sets and trying to figure out how we can do that around clues and broadening participation.
Great, thank you. Thanks, this was really helpful. We really appreciate you all having these discussions and sharing some of this information. In fact, in a little bit, the federal agencies will be meeting and we'll be talking about ways of collaborating. And some of the ideas that you have shared will undoubtedly be discussed. So thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm going to, Leslie would like to share something with you, and then we'll be really close to our time for a short break and the next session.
Just to address the question that came up about how to connect with the hub and a little bit more about that, there is the website, the www.includesnetwork.org, which is also an online community, so you can connect with each other, connect in affinity groups, connect with others in the network. I don't know how many we have on board right now, but I know from Daniela yesterday that people were signing up right as we're here. But the other thing is we have the email address. You can always email us. Kate and others have done webinars on tours of our online community, tours of our resources. We're happy to keep facilitating your knowledge of our resources so that you can make the most of them. So if you have questions about the hub, any of the hub staff who stood up yesterday and are wearing the staff little ribbon today can answer those or can tell you where to go for information. So please, if you do have questions, that's why we're here, that's why we're hosting this event with NSF, that's what we're doing, is connecting everyone. So please don't forget that all you have to do is ask, and we will put, if we can't answer your question right now, we'll tell you when we'll get back to you. And if you have great ideas about how to share resources with other agencies, with other funders, how to create affinity groups in the online community because you've made 8 friends who you want to keep in touch with after being at this meeting, just let us know. We can help you out with all of that. We're here to help build and support the network.
Okay, so you have 4 minutes. So I think we need to give you a little more time. So what about 10:05? Okay, so 10:05, be at your next session. Those are the two